Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 997 of the Juicebox Podcast. Today I'll be speaking with Roisin. She is the mother of a child with type 1 diabetes and celiac. They are from Canada. And my note to myself says that I go on some sort of a rant during this episode about people not doing their job. So that'll be fun. While you're listening, please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. You can drink AG1 with my link, drinkag1.com/juicebox. First time orders through the link get 5 free travel packs and a year's worth of vitamin D with their first order. You can save 40% off at cozyearth.com with my offer code JUICEBOX. That's off of everything. And of course, if you're looking for Dexcom, Omnipod, US Med, Gvoke HypoPen, or all the sponsors, the links in the show notes are a great way to support the podcast. Links in the show notes, links at juiceboxpodcast.com. And don't forget to check out the private Facebook group. It's absolutely free, has 41,000 members. Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes. Links also in the show notes. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored. You hear that thunder? Can you hear that? Hold on. Uh-oh. Scotty's in trouble. I better do this quick. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by Omnipod, makers of the Omnipod 5 and the Omnipod DASH. Learn more, get started today at omnipod.com/juicebox. When you use my link, you're supporting the show. The podcast is also sponsored today by the Contour Next One blood glucose meter, contournext.com/juicebox. The meters are available right there on the website. Actually, the test strips as well. The reason you might care about that is because the Contour brand of meters and strips may very well be cheaper in cash, like over the counter, out of your pocket, than they are through your insurance. Check it out at contournext.com/juicebox.
My name is Roisin, and I live in Canada, and I have 2 kids who are 6 and 8, and my 8-year-old, I'll use his first name, David. He has type 1 diabetes and celiac disease. He got the celiac diagnosis in February 2020, like a couple weeks before the world shut down for COVID. And then he got the T1D diagnosis literally a year and 3 days ago. So January 2022.
Thank God you said your name, because
yes, I know
it is not spelled like that at all.
No, that's Gaelic for you.
Say it one more time for me.
Roisin.
Got it.
Yeah.
I'm never going to look at where it's typed out in front of me again.
Nope, don't. It'll just confuse you.
I mean, what's the most common mispronunciation? Roisin?
I get Roisin
okay.
a lot. And I also answer to raisin, because if you change the O to an A, it spells raisin.
Oh, look at that.
That was a fun thing to grow up with in Canada.
I'm just a pair of reading glasses away from calling you raisin, aren't I? Oh my God.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. And in Canada?
Yes.
And you were born and raised?
No, I was born in Ireland, but I moved here when I was 6 years old. So I'm Canadian at this point, essentially.
Well, I was going to say you don't have almost any
Nothing
accent at all. Yeah. So I thought maybe that you were born there, but I mean, 6 is pretty young. So
yeah.
Okay, well that explains all the autoimmune stuff, and
yeah, exactly, exactly.
I don't know if we can move the sun towards that part of the world or something, but I think
I don't know. We need some help. I don't know.
if we could, maybe in a couple of centuries, it wouldn't be going like this.
Maybe.
Okay, so how about in your family line? Any other autoimmune stuff?
Oh yeah, we got a few. So on my dad's side, his aunt, we believe she had celiac disease, but like this was a million years ago, and I don't know if they would have even called it celiac disease, but she lived on a farm in rural Ireland and had to like ship special flour in to bake with because she couldn't eat regular flour. So we think that was celiac. And then his uncle had type 1 diabetes, but he died in the 80s before I was born. So I don't know how he managed it. And then my mom has celiac disease, but she wasn't diagnosed until her 40s when I was about 20. And I never knew of the connection to type 1 diabetes. But then when my son started having some like abdominal problems when he was 5, my brain just kind of went, oh, celiac, I should get him tested for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I called up the doctor and she was like, oh, it's probably not. Like, you're probably being a hypochondriac, but fine, we'll test him. And then she called me back a few days later and she was like, his numbers are off the charts. It's definitely celiac. You got to go gluten-free right away. So that's how that went.
Wow. Jeez. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, good job figuring it out so quickly and not ignoring things that were obvious, which a lot of us do.
Well, if my mom wasn't celiac, I never would have thought of it or known about it or whatever. No. So,
well, yeah, I know, but I've spoken to enough people whose like siblings have diabetes, and they're like, I didn't realize I had diabetes for a while. So
yeah.
So it's interesting how your mind will want to lead you away from things you don't want to happen. So
absolutely, yeah. And actually, I only found out recently. I had something when I was a kid called Henoch-Schönlein purpura. And I always knew I'd had it when I was a toddler. My parents have told me about it. I was in the hospital and stuff. I only found out recently that is autoimmune. So I had something autoimmune, but I didn't realize until literally 2 or 3 weeks ago that it was autoimmune.
Hey, so you made that up, right? What is that again?
No, I know. It's called Henoch. It's Henoch, and then Schönlein is Schonlein, purpura.
I got it.
Purpur. You got it. Yeah, it's IgA vasculitis. So it's an autoimmune response. I had the mumps when I was just before I turned 2, and that was my autoimmune response. But I didn't know, and my parents didn't know. Like, I told them recently that was autoimmune, and they were like, "Oh, gee, nobody told us that." So I don't even knew. Maybe they didn't know back then it was autoimmune, because this would have been like 1984 or something.
Did they ever call it spring fever?
I've never heard that. No.
A disorder causing inflammation and bleeding in the small blood vessels. I don't even want to try to Henoch. I mean, what's the word in the middle? There's 2 dots over an O.
Yeah, I know.
Purpura affects the small blood vessels of the skin, joints, intestines, and kidneys. It's most common before age 7, but can affect anyone. Symptoms include reddish purple spots on the lower extremities, swollen and sore joints, abdominal pain, and bloody urine. It's often treated with steroids. Do you remember having it?
No, it was before my 2nd birthday.
Oh,
it was just before I turned 2.
Yeah, you'd be amazing if you remembered that.
Yeah, exactly. My parents said basically one morning, like, I was the kind of kid who used to come and wake them up at 5 a.m. every day. And one morning they woke up and it was like 7 and I hadn't woken them up yet. And they came to my room and I was just sitting there and they're like, "What, are you okay? Like, what's wrong with you?" And I was just like, "Oh, I can't walk. Like, I can't walk anymore." And it can cause like arthritis and stuff.
Yeah.
So I basically hurt too much to walk, but being 2, I was just kind of like, "Oh, I guess I can't walk today."
Yeah, you guys can't spell and I can't walk. So
yeah, there we go.
Oh my gosh, how long did that last for?
I think I was in the hospital a couple weeks.
No kidding.
Yeah. I mean, back then they kept people in the hospital way longer too, so I don't know.
Yeah,
but once it resolved, it was done, and I never thought about it. Nobody ever really thought about it again. It's just like a funny family story. That time Roisin couldn't walk for a few weeks.
Does everyone remember the hilarious time the baby couldn't stand up?
Exactly.
and you're hold on a second. And it's autoimmune?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I literally found that out like since Christmas. I found that out, and it blew my mind because I always figured the autoimmune had skipped me and gone to my son. And then I found that out. I was like, "Oh no, it's a direct link." There we go.
Well, we're going to add that to the list. I'm doing a series of
a master list.
Yes, we're doing a short series of other autoimmune issues.
Nice.
Just an explanation. They literally might be, 10-minute conversations.
Right.
But
yeah,
just, as people come on, the more common ones are are becoming obvious. Like I used to hear like, oh, well, thyroid and type 1, and that's it. And then, through the podcast, it was celiac as well. And then, like now I'm starting to hear more people talk about like depression, bipolar, stuff like that. And I just thought like, I wonder what else people have that they would never relate back to this inflammation and autoimmune. So
exactly.
Anyway, well, and you've never had any other issues?
No.
How about that?
No.
All right. So your son, David, he's diagnosed celiac first.
Yes.
And it's just
2 years before.
Stomach pain, you recognize it, take him to the doctor, that's that. And do you think after that, oh, he's going to get more autoimmune stuff, or does your brain not work that way? At some point on your diabetes journey, a person gave you a blood glucose meter. Did they say to you, hey, this is a great blood glucose meter? It's one of the most accurate ones that they ever made. No one said that. Did they say, by the way, there are other blood glucose meters. You might want to look into it. I'm just going to give you this one because I have it here in the drawer. Nope, they didn't say that either. They just gave it to you, and you thought, well, this must be my blood glucose meter because the doctor gave it to me. But there are many meters, and they're not all made equally. You deserve an accurate, well-made, and easy-to-use blood glucose meter. You deserve the Contour Next One. The Contour Next One is my favorite blood glucose meter. I know that's a strange thing to say, but we've used a number of them over the years, and this one is my favorite. Why? Bright light for use at night. The screen, super easy to read. It's manageable, and by that I mean it's a good size. It's not too big, it's not too small, and I love the way it fits in my hand. It's sort of, because of the shape, which you'll see at contournext.com/juicebox, almost feels like you're holding a pen in your hand. I don't know how to put it exactly. You'll see when you get to the website. But the Contour Next One blood glucose meter is incredibly accurate. But you might be worried, Scott, all this accuracy, is it more expensive? Am I going to be paying a bunch more money? I don't think so. Actually, if you go to contournext.com/juicebox, you can actually buy it right now at a number of online venues. Walmart, Amazon, Walgreens, CVS, the list goes on and on. Target, Rite Aid. And so when you get to my link, check it out. Because you might be able to save time and money buying Contour Next products from the convenience of your home. What am I saying? Well, I'm saying that it's possible that this meter and the test strips could be cheaper in cash than you're paying right now through your insurance company for an inferior product. How crazy is that? You owe it to yourself to be using the best equipment that you can. And there's no reason not to check out the Contour Next One blood glucose meter. contournext.com/juicebox. My daughter Arden has been wearing an Omnipod since she was 4 years old, and she is now 19. That is every day wearing an Omnipod for the last 15 years. I think what we love most about Omnipod is that it doesn't have any tubing. But, I don't know. Is that the thing you love most about it? You don't have to take it off to swim or bathe. You can leave it on for activity and exercise. It's small. I mean, it's so easy to put on, right? To fill it and to put it on, it takes us no time at all. Yeah, I guess it's hard to figure out what my favorite thing about Omnipod is. I guess I'll just say that my daughter loves it. It's easy and it's worked for her for so many years. It's just such a friend in all of this. Omnipod.com/juicebox. You can check your coverage there for your insurance, or take a test drive, right? Would you like a free trial of the Omnipod? You can do that there as well. And you can just get started. Omnipod.com/juicebox. Now you have a decision to make. Do you want the Omnipod DASH, which is an insulin pump where you make all the decisions? Or do you want the Omnipod 5? Now the Omnipod 5 is the first and only tubeless automated insulin delivery system to integrate with the Dexcom G6. And it's available for people with type 1 diabetes ages 2 years and older. It features smart adjust technology, and it's going to help you to protect against highs and lows both day and night. That's an algorithm-based system, making decisions about insulin, giving it and taking it away. It's pretty damn cool. Omnipod.com/juicebox. The link's in the show notes. Links at juiceboxpodcast.com. When you use those links, you're supporting the production of the podcast and helping to keep it free and plentiful.
No, I had no idea the links, but I have to we had an amazing gastroenterologist. We spent a year sort of on the program at our local kids hospital with gastroenterology, and we went every few months and checked his levels and made sure we were managing the gluten-free diet and that kind of thing. And then literally like a year later, we did really well. His numbers were off the charts. At first, his number, they give you like a value, a greater than value. Mm-hmm. So his numbers were at 4,975, like greater than, huge. And then a year later, his numbers were at 21. And basically they want you to get it to 20 or lower. So we were doing great. But the last thing she said to us before she sort of discharged us to self-care, she was like, oh, by the way, there's a link to type 1 diabetes. So if you ever notice A, B, and C, make sure you check on that. And I just kind of went, oh yeah, whatever. Okay.
Lady, I just beat celiac disease. So I'm just going to leave now in triumph, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh. Yeah. All this was handled with just diet, right? Like you got from that big number to that smaller number through diet. How difficult or not difficult was it for David to make those adjustments?
So he was only 5, which I think helped. I hear about people getting diagnosed celiac when they're like 14 or 15 and they've had a life of eating, Domino's pizza or whatever. And I think that's different. At 5, you're still sort of micromanaging their diet. And also that was literally a few weeks before the big COVID lockdown. So where we live, we had some of the strictest lockdown policies anywhere. We basically spent the next 2 years like preparing all his food.
Yeah.
So that kind of really helped. He's a superstar about it. Like once we found a few staples for him, we found, some breads that he liked, some cookies that he liked, some cereal that he liked. I like to cook and stuff anyway. So I was always, making meals from scratch and that kind of thing anyway. Mm-hmm. Other than eating out, I don't find it much of a challenge.
Okay. Did the whole family adjust or?
We're I would say we're probably 80 to 90% gluten-free at home. We only have gluten-free pasta. We only buy gluten-free snack foods. We eat a lot of whole foods anyway, like just fruit, vegetables, cheese, meat, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. He has his own bread and his own toaster. We do have gluten bread in the house just because I have 6 and 8-year-old boys who never stop eating bread, and his loaves of bread are $6 plus a loaf. So, there's a few little things like that we do have gluten in, but for the most part, we're pretty gluten-free, I would say.
Yeah. How's the healthcare system in, I don't know, like just generally speaking, what part of Canada are you in?
We're in Ontario.
Okay. It's so interesting. Like there'll be some people in some parts of Canada who are like, I needed to go to the doctor and it took 9 months for me to get an appointment. And then there are some people who have stories like yours. They're like, oh, I took to the doctor, blah, 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 bang, bang, bang. It's super interesting, but it's by province, right? Like that's how the
province and even region, like Ontario's we're kind of a weird province because we have some of the most populous cities in Canada, but then the northern parts of Ontario are like very rural and very sort of, you won't have the same access to services and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm lucky. I live in a major city. The Children's Hospital is a half-hour drive for us. And I'm lucky that we have a family doctor, have a long-standing family doctor. Now there's like a big doctor shortage. So if you don't have one, it's really hard to get on a caseload somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, we took away the possibilities for doctors to be rich, and a lot of greedy people were like, I don't want to be doctors anymore.
Yeah, and I think the pandemic has just burned out a lot of them too, and they've gotten out of the practice or gone to places where they can make more money.
Fascinating, isn't it? Like I don't have a job where I can just go like, I'm gonna go do something else now. Like I wonder what that's like. I don't want to do this anymore. Like not that maybe they didn't have a good reason. I'm just saying like that's an amazing ability to be able to like, I'm just going to go do something else now. Like
I'm going to pick up and leave now. Yeah. Somebody
asked me the other day, like, if the podcast like just collapsed, would you start another one? I was like, no. I was like, this is a once in a lifetime thing that this worked out. Like you don't just go make another one and people are like, oh, okay. Well, we'll make
We'll
that
listen
one.
to your next one.
Yeah, we'll make that one popular too. I'm like, it doesn't work that way, you know? But yeah, like that, it does sound nice though. Like, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. I'm going to do something else. Anyway,
Yeah.
the reason I asked about that is because once David's diagnosed with type 1, I'm wondering if they went right into fast acting, you know, insulin with.
And yeah, no, that's like, I have that on my list of things I want to talk about with you.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, what's the first sign of type 1? And when you saw it, did you think, oh, that nurse jinxed us?
Yeah, maybe. No, so school was shut down for COVID at the time when his symptoms started coming up, which like in a way was a blessing because I was with him 24/7. And so I really I saw the progression, you know?
Right.
He was doing online school at the time and I'm a stay-at-home parent. So like I was supervising him and my other kid. They were, you know, in different rooms on their iPads and I was making sure they had snacks and drinks and they were paying attention to their teachers and all of that. And he started like going to the bathroom all the time and refilling his water bottle all the time. And my husband and I were just like, David, get back to class. Like we know virtual class is boring, but like you have to do it. Just do it. So stop trying to get out of it every 5 minutes for a drink of water or a bathroom break. And that's all we thought it was at first. And then he was also just eating like ridiculous amounts. And he's always been a big eater, but like I started taking pictures of his plates and sending them to my friends and being like, haha, growing boys, look what he can eat. He's only 7. And then, you know, a couple little things started clicking. And I remembered that conversation I'd had at discharge with the celiac. And I was like, oh, no, like this can't be it.
Yeah.
And then I have one of my best friends, her daughter has type 1, her daughter who's the same age as my son, but she was diagnosed at 4. And I was texting her and I was like, I don't know, what do you think? And she was like, why don't you just come over and use my glucometer? And, you know, like it's probably nothing, but we'll check and then you'll know. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. So I brought him over one Saturday morning. He just had pancakes and maple syrup and we pricked his finger and it just read high. And my friend and her husband, they both kind of got tears in their eyes and just looked at me and were like, yeah, you got to go to the hospital. And that was that. Yeah.
Did you get that maple syrup right out of a tree or did you buy it in a store?
No, I am not very handy that way. I'm straight from the grocery store.
Oh my gosh. It's hard to hear that, or I guess, look, I put myself in your position, but it must have been difficult to see them get upset.
It was. Yeah. They both teared up right away. And I was just like, oh gosh. And I'd seen my friend go through it. So I knew it was hard, but you don't know how hard until it's you.
Yeah. I was just going to say that. I was going to ask the question, like, do you look back now and have more context for the sadness that they had, or, you know, did you know?
Oh my God. Like a couple of weeks later, I messaged her and I was like, I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you more. Like, I'm so sorry I didn't come and like, I don't know what I could have done, like cleaned your whole house and done all your laundry and taken care of your other child. I'm so sorry I didn't do that for you because now I get it.
Yeah. Well, now because now you're looking at your laundry and
I'm like, I need someone to come do this for me because I was up all night with a low blood sugar, you know?
I remember the moment. I'm so much older now, but I remember the moment when you make that decision in your head. You're like, okay, laundry's not always going to go from the hamper through the system and right back into drawers. And we're all going to be okay with that.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all just going to be okay with that.
We have enough clothes.
Yeah. My wife fought the longest. She's like, they can't lay around like this. I was like, well, I don't know what you think's going to happen. You can come up here and do it yourself if you want, but that's about it.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. So David getting a second diagnosis, did it hit him differently than the first one?
In a way, I think having 2 years of knowing he had celiac and something that was different than most people in his life, that it almost like laid the groundwork for diabetes. Like he said something in the hospital ER that just like, it broke my heart. It was the cutest thing. The doctor sort of said something to him, like when he was being diagnosed with type 1, like, oh, are you okay, David? Like, how do you feel about this? He's like, well, now I have to find a cure for celiac and type 1 diabetes. I was just like my heart broke, to
Oh,
hear him say that. But it was very cute.
yeah. Does he want to do something scientific?
I don't think, I think if he could do what he wanted, he'd just play Roblox and Minecraft all day. But he's got lots of interest. Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry. I watched my 22-year-old son break up with baseball in his head this year, and it took a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just between you and me, he'll never hear this. Does he have a scientific mind so far? Or you don't think so?
Oh yeah, no, he's pretty good at science and math and stuff, I think.
Oh wow.
If he wanted to go that way, he probably could.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's put him on it. I don't know what we're busy with this Roblox. Is that what it's called? Roblox?
Roblox.
Roadblocks.
Yeah.
Wait, did I make something else up, or
No.
did it actually exist?
Yeah, it's don't even bother. It's you don't need to know about it. Consider yourself lucky that you're not exposed to the world of Roblox.
Well, listen, I just, again, to show my age, I was Roly Poly Oly, Bear in the Big Blue House, the Little Einsteins. Like, this is the stuff my kids saw on television when they were younger. Something called Out of the Box, where these two people who appeared to be captives of the television production crew were forced to sing with children. And
Oh,
I mean, I always assumed they didn't want to be there. When I was watching. I mean, I thought, oh, I guess they're paying them, but they look like captives to me. Like they were just overperforming, they had big faces, and oh god, now I'm going to wonder about that all day. All right, I don't want to talk about that anymore. I'm sorry. I could sing the song. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, that stuff sticks with you forever.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm not singing the song in case you wonder, but I definitely could. So in your note to me, you wrote a lot.
Yeah, I was like a mess when I wrote that, I think.
Okay. I always love when people are like, I don't know what I wrote. Was in a daze. It's some people will come on and joke like, well, I'm recording now 6 months after I signed up. And I'm always like, honestly, for some of you newer diagnosed people, I think that's too soon. Like I've put people off longer at times because of their state of mind. And I've been like, once you've been through this a little more, why don't you come back? But describe that. Like when you reached out, why did you reach out, and what felt like the imperative?
I think I was just like, I was grieving like a lot, like sort of the loss of the life that you think you're going to have for your kid. And I didn't know about anything, like most people, like type 1 diabetes. I knew it had something to do with injections and insulin and sugar. And I don't know, I thought people with diabetes just sort of gave themselves 4 shots a day every 6 hours and went on with their life. Like I had no idea. And when you start to learn that, oh no, it's so much more than that. It's just I think I was overwhelmed. I was super overwhelmed. Yeah. I'm somebody who really likes to, if I do something, I want to do it well. Otherwise I'm not going to do it. And I don't really have any choice in this matter. I have to do it. So I have to do it well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, I was just really overwhelmed probably.
And you wanted to share it with someone, or you wanted to get answers, or you had, like, what do you think?
I don't know. Maybe just shouting at the universe. I don't know.
Oh,
just trying to get help, get comfort, get solidarity. And then I think also I'd been listening to you a little bit and just sort of being like, how do I get to the point where you are? And like, I realize even, I'm 1 year in now, and you're, I don't know how many years you are with Arden, like 16 or 17 or something. It's apples to oranges. You can't really compare it. But I think at that time I was just like, okay, I need to get to where Scott is, and I need to get there by next week. So how do I do that?
Well, I can help you speed up a little bit, but I don't think I can give you the whole 16 years right away. Although I guess the podcast is getting to be quite a compendium. Maybe one day we'll figure out how to do it. But yeah, I mean, Arden was 2. She's 18 now. So 16 years. I know the feeling of like wanting all the information at once. But the truth is like, you get to that the same way. I mean, what's the saying about how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. So I think it's a very similar situation. People don't like to think of it that way, which is why I usually talk about it like, you have to have these experiences over and over again and really take something from them. And, so you can move on to the next one with some like firm understanding. And, but it's hard to hear like, in the day, you know what I mean? Like when the days move so slowly and and the next day you don't feel like you've made any progress over the day before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no.
But I've been having a lot of feelings about that the last week or so because it was David's 1 year diagnosis date this past Sunday, just a couple days ago.
Mhm.
And so like a year out now, I'm kind of able to like what was I doing last January, last February? And like, wow, like we have come so far. We're still not perfect. It's progress, not perfection. Learning new things all the time, of course. But like, I wish I could have gone back to me a year ago and been like, a year from now, you're going to have such a better handle on this. Like you won't be panicking every day.
I always like struggle with how to like get that across to somebody. Like
Yeah.
one day. So how do you feel about the thing that I say that diabetes doesn't get easier, but you get so much better at it that some days it kind of feels easy?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the vibe. Like, so you're doing this difficult thing, but you're so skilled at some point that that feeling's gone. Like, so have you lost that horrible feeling in your gut?
There's still moments. The biggest thing I struggle with him right now is like he's an 8-year-old boy who has zero predictability in his activity levels. So like he can go from lying on the couch to sprinting around the house and do the same thing 4 times in an hour. And we're on MDI. So like there's no messing around with the basal rates or anything like that. So like it's one thing when he's in the house with me, I can be like, David, like stop zooming around the house and have a little juice. But then when I know he's doing that at recess at school and I'm watching the Dexcom and I'm like, oh, I guess he's sprinting around the playground, like those are the moments that are hard for sure.
Yeah. You didn't say you had a horrible feeling in your stomach. I just assumed you did. So
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, no, it's really something else. Hey, a quick side note. The 2 actors from Out of the Box, I've now looked into.
Yes.
And they did nothing ever after the show,
So maybe they did hate it.
And it ran for 6 years. They did like 70 some episodes of this children's show. I found the woman, Vivian, on Instagram, and I'm not calling her out. It's just so sad. She doesn't even have 5,000 followers on Instagram, and she's doing like pictures like, do you remember what episode this happened in? And I'm like, oh, you're not really talking to anybody, but okay.
Oh, no.
The other guy, Tony, if anyone listened, now I just feel at this point like I owe it to people to go over this. Tony apparently has done nothing professional either. So,
I just Googled it and the image generates some kind of memory in me.
Does it?
I feel like I've seen it before. Yeah.
It's
what was it? 98 to 2004. So yeah, okay.
The feeling
I was born in 82.
Where the feeling it brings up inside of me, Rashina, is I don't know if you ever heard this phrase, douche chill. Because that's how I used to feel when I saw it. I was like, oh, I can't believe we're doing this. I feel douchey.
Yeah.
But so just real quick, and then we'll get back to your story.
Mm-hmm.
The phrase douche chill doesn't hit you, right? You're not old enough.
No.
Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. It means an exclamation calling attention to an embarrassment of someone who has brought ill consequence on themselves. That's how I felt for those people when I watched Out of the Box.
I think they call that like cringe now. It feels cringe.
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 40.
You're 10 years younger than me? And that, I find that incredibly interesting. Okay. So you, I guess we're going to get to this part, right? You're in Canada, so you get type 1 diabetes. Do they give you insulin from 1980 or do they give you insulin from
Absolutely. Absolutely. At the ER. And our diagnosis was his diagnosis. It was, we were in the ER for a total of 4 hours. We did not stay overnight. We didn't have any big intense. It was, he walked in, he walked out, and with a bag of supplies where it was like, here, go keep your child alive. I was like, oh, okay, I'll try. We got NPH and Humalog to start, and we were told how many carbs to eat per meal, and we had a sliding scale. And we had this little card. It was like, if his blood sugar is above this, add this much. If it's below this, take away this much or whatever. And I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I found it pretty useless.
How long did you do it before you pushed back?
A few weeks. I started listening to the podcast really early, like literally There was a teacher at my kid's school whose stepson is type 1, and somebody I know whose husband was type 1. And within the first couple of weeks, they had both reached out to me and said, you got to listen to the Juicebox. And I said, oh, okay. And I started listening to a few things and hearing about carb ratios and stuff. I was like, well, yeah, like that makes sense. Can I have one of those, please? So we were doing everything virtually because of COVID also. So I'm emailing the team being like, can you teach us a carb ratio, please? They're like, well, I don't know. It's a pretty complex thing. And I'm like, no, like my husband and I are pretty smart. We know what a ratio is. I know how to carb count. I had way prior to all this, probably like 2019, 2021, I put myself on a keto diet and I was like strict about it.
Mm-hmm.
So like I knew how to count carbs. I already knew how many grams of carbs were in an apple or a handful of blueberries or whatever else. Like I just knew that stuff. I don't need this sliding scale. This is useless to me. But we got the carb ratio a few weeks in, and that definitely helped.
Can I ask, did they really said it was complicated?
Yeah. And I think that's like, I don't know. I think that's one of my themes. I shouldn't put words in their mouth. I can't remember if they actually used the word complicated or not. But my husband and I have felt from the get-go that like, they're always sort of holding back what they want to give you and teach you because they don't know if you have the capacity for it. And I get it because they're dealing with people from all areas of life. But I wish there was a way for them to look at certain people and be like, oh, we could probably speed this up for you guys because we were ready for that.
Yeah. I mean, I know I've talked about this, but I don't know. I don't know if I sound, I don't know. Like, do I sound erudite when I say this? But I mean, is it really that hard to count carbs? Like, it's on the package.
I mean, I guess it's just like one more thing on top of everything else. Maybe they're just trying not to overwhelm you, but
how early into his diagnosis was it when you were asking and they were like,
maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I can't remember. Okay. We had to push them to get a carb ratio.
I have an episode, where you could make your own.
Yeah, I hadn't gotten there yet, I guess.
Sorry, it just went out a couple weeks ago. I apologize, Roisin, for not making the podcast fast enough for you.
It wasn't there for me when I needed it.
I really did let you down. I apologize. Well, it's interesting. So you got it from them, and you basically had to vouch for it. They make you take a 10 question IQ quiz, just real quick, or did they just give in and let you do it?
No, we were doing this all on Zoom call, and so they start explaining it to us, and I was like, yeah, I get it. 30 grams of carbs, 1 to 15, he gets 2 units. I got it. And they were sort of like, oh, okay. Like we demonstrated pretty quickly that like we could do this. So I think once they sort of realized that, they were happy enough to go through it with us. But I don't know. It's just, I felt like they were like gatekeeping a lot at the beginning.
Yeah. Did you hear anyone yell over their shoulder, "Oh, we got a smart one here," or something like that?
No. No.
I'm just teasing. I'm sure people in Canada don't talk like that. So, no. Okay, so you got to that, and that made it easier for you, I would imagine.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Was he not honeymooning at all, looking back?
I don't think he ever had what I see some people call their honeymoon. Like for him, his honeymoon was more, in my opinion, like cyclical. Like he needed insulin for every carb from the get-go. Like that was just the way it was. But then every so often, and it was more frequent at first and, less frequent as we've gone through the year, he has these days where it's like, oh, your pancreas is working today. And we have a little joke. We'll just be like, oh, Mr. Pancreas turned on today.
Mm-hmm.
Guess we'll just be careful today, and maybe we'll go for ice cream later,
This is our day. We're going out.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just watch the CGM and see what happens. And at first it would be like, every couple weeks he might have 2 to 4 days like that. Mm-hmm. And then, then it was every 4 weeks, then every 6 weeks. And now the last time I can remember this happening was the beginning of December. It was maybe not even 24 hours, but just where we just could not keep his levels up. And he wasn't sick, and he wasn't running a marathon. He wasn't doing anything spectacularly different. It was just like every time he'd eat, blood sugar would go up and hit maybe like, and I have a conversion table here. His blood sugar might hit like a 140.
Yeah.
And then without insulin, come right back down on its own. and he'd start going low and we'd have to give him more.
Mm. And do you find that a lot of celiac friendly foods are higher in carbs?
Well, see, that's the interesting thing. I see people talk about that all the time, but he had his celiac diagnosis 2 years before type 1 diabetes. So I have no experience bolusing for wheat and gluten-full foods.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the difference is.
Do you have any trouble bolusing for them now?
I don't think so. Like I see people all the time say it's harder, but I don't know anything different. Maybe it is harder. I don't know how his blood sugar would react with wheat.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really say if it's harder or the same or easier or whatever. But I don't find it an issue.
Okay.
Like I don't think the gluten-free is an issue.
Good. No, that's great. Do you not use a lot of prepackaged gluten-free foods?
I wouldn't say we don't use a lot. We do, like he eats chips, and we have a gluten-free pizza we buy from Costco he likes, and granola bars and gluten-free Oreos. Like he has all those things, but we're a moderation family, and we were like that before type 1 diabetes came into our lives. So, he might get 1 or 2 Oreos, not a whole sleeve, right?
I am embarrassed, but that Costco pizza, it's in the green and white box.
Yeah.
It is
it's
good,
really
isn't
good.
it? Yeah.
It's really good. Everyone I've served it to likes it.
It's still frozen pizza, but it's somehow, I don't know.
Decent.
It's enjoyable.
Yeah.
It might make, in my mind, not as pizza, but for whatever it is, if you gave it its own food category, I like it.
You call it a flatbread or something. Yeah.
That's good. I am a little embarrassed. You said the Costco pizza. I was like, I know that pizza.
Everybody likes it. Everybody likes this gluten-free pizza. Yeah.
You're so nice. I felt so silly saying it for some reason. Oh my God. Okay. So, and he's MDI still, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is like another bone I have to pick with the medical system, because we want a pump. We've wanted a pump since like 2 months in, but the way it works here is the government will cover the pump for us, but you have to be MDI for a year. So that's great. But, his diagnosis date has passed and he's still MDI and he's on a pump start wait list. And we only got put on the pump start wait list after we passed a little test in October, November. And we could have passed that test last spring. So why didn't they give us the test last spring? And then we could be on a pump by now. And
did you ask to do it? Did you ask to do it earlier and they told you no, or you just went with the rule?
Oh, we've been saying since, after the initial diagnosis shock, maybe the first couple months, we've been saying we want a pump. We want a pump as soon as possible. Please get us a pump. We want a pump. What do we have to do to get a pump?
And they said wait a year, and then on the magical year date, they were like, okay, now get in a line.
Basically, yeah, exactly.
But first, Smarty Pants, you have to pass this test. What was on that test, by the way?
It was like, what is a carbohydrate? Why do you have to cover carbohydrates with insulin? How many carbs are in a slice of bread that your child eats?
Yeah.
It was just like, I feel like if I didn't know that stuff, I would have killed him by now.
You ever wonder why society doesn't lunge forward constantly? You know how you're always like, why do things take so long?
Yes, exactly.
Here's one of your answers.
You said something it was an early episode, because like I sort of started at the beginning about, it was like speed limits on roads. And it was like, yeah, like most of us could drive a lot faster and be fine. But because there's some people who can't, we gotta slow it down for everyone.
We all do this.
And that's kind of how I felt.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm laughing because maybe someone couldn't pass the test about carbohydrates and everything, but I guess I'm laughing more because it's the expectation. Like, why do we set our expectations so low? Like imagine somewhere somebody got down, they sat in a room, they're like, we have to come up with a test to make sure that it's okay for people to go from MDI to pumping. Now, let's let go of the idea that that's probably not necessary, but okay. Somebody's decided they have to make a test, and then that ends up being the test.
Yeah.
You're sitting there looking at it thinking, this is an incredible waste of time and effort.
Yes, I 100% did.
Yeah. I don't know. Put me in charge. I'll fix some things.
Fix everything.
On my first day as king, I will take away the test to get the, I will at least make it valuable so that when you answer the question, I can tell if you'd be able to use a pump or not.
Sure. Yeah. Talk about like basal rates or something and be like, do they understand this concept? But No,
A
that
whole
wasn't
year
it
with
at all.
diabetes and MDI.
Mhm.
How would you not understand what a carb does and you've been doing it already?
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Can I say something pompous? Why not? Right?
Go for it. Yeah.
There are days when I wonder why I'm successful, and then there are days when I think I'm not really beating out many people.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I,
Yeah.
I feel bad. Like, I sent my son off into the world, and he was like, "Do you have any like words of wisdom here?" And I said, "Yeah, you've probably already got like 80% of the people beat. Just,
Yeah.
go." I'm like, you'll get in a room with 10 people, and you'll realize like some people don't care, some people don't try, some people don't. I don't even think it's because they don't have it in them. Like sometimes, like
Mhm.
some people are just content. Like that's how that list makes me feel. Like that test. Like somebody sat down and went, diabetes, carbs,
Yeah. Yeah.
insulin. Ask those questions. And I
Exactly.
did the thing. I made the test like I was supposed to. And now, God knows how many years later, and how many people they've tortured with that stupid test to get somebody an
Well,
insulin.
yeah, it felt really old fashioned. Really old fashioned.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, everyone keep not trying. I enjoy doing well. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it
It makes it
takes.
a little easier. Yeah.
I listen. If 4 of you tried harder, I might be done. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't think I'm so special. I'm just working hard. Like just
Yeah.
I don't know. Like just oh my, it's frustrating. You're like, why are we talking about this? But I'm very frustrated.
No, no.
I think it's
This is how I felt for a whole year.
I think it's because my mom's in the hospital right now.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
and I appreciate that. But as you're going through and working through the problems, you recognize that if you don't help, they're
Yeah.
going to follow some bullet list, and she'll either be okay or she won't. And they're not going to
Oh,
try very
yeah.
hard,
You have to advocate.
Mm.
You have to. Like if having a child with medical conditions has made me learn anything, it's you have to advocate. The other thing is I was going to bring this up too. I want to know if you've ever heard of this. David actually had a couple major seizures before he was diagnosed with anything autoimmune.
Hmm.
And like he was at 4 years old and at 5 years old. And then the celiac came at 7. Obviously, he had celiac before then. We just didn't know. But I can, there's something in my brain. I can't help but wonder if those seizures were related to upcoming autoimmune problems because the doctors could never find a reason for them.
Did he experience any memory loss after them?
No, I wouldn't say so. Like he couldn't remember the actual period of the seizure, but he remembered just before and just after.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, being perfectly honest with you, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if that's something you'd heard people say before or
Did it
whatever.
mimic like a blood sugar low, or was it something more
I don't
neurological?
like. I assume they checked his blood sugar levels, but this was way before diabetes was part of our life. So, like both times we took him to the ER, obviously, and they ran whatever tests they run, and he had MRI and EEGs and all kinds of things, and no discernible cause ever found. But like, I don't know. I don't have it. I don't know any other kids who had grand mal seizures at 4 or 5 and 2 autoimmune diseases at 5 and 7.
Yeah, I heard about one little girl that couldn't walk once, but that's the only part of the story.
Yeah, that's a different story, and it was pretty funny.
No, I wish I would. It's pretty. I love that your family just turned that into like a fun tale about the time the baby couldn't walk. It's fantastic.
I don't think it was fun at the time.
No.
To my parents' credit, I think they were very upset at the time, but 20 years later, they were able to laugh about it.
Are your parents your first generation? So your parents weren't born in.
They were both born in Ireland. Yeah.
So this happened to you in Ireland.
Yes.
They probably just picked you up and they were like, "This one's broken." I know, it's so funny. You're telling a story from like the 70s and 80s, and I'm acting like it's 1800.
Yes. No, they had hospitals and everything.
I apologize. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Give me a second. I made myself laugh, and whatever's left from my COVID from 9 months ago is still in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna circle back to something for a second because I'm still irritated, and if I don't let it go, we won't be able to move forward.
All right.
What does it mean to advocate for yourself? I Googled this. Self-advocacy means you are able to tell people about your thoughts and feelings. You are able to ask for what you need and want. You know your rights and you speak up for your rights. You are able to make choices and decisions that affect your life and take responsibility for the choices you make. All I hear when I read that is the people you're going to intersect may very well not do the things they're supposed to do. So you're going to have to make them. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Or is that?
No, I think you're right.
Okay.
But I do think a lot of it comes down to, at least here, like the hospital staff being overworked. Like the backlogs are just really intense. Everybody has too many patients and not enough time and all of that kind of stuff. So, and like funding just gets cut year by year. It's like, oh, let's see where we can chisel off a little bit more, and you're constantly asked to do more with less. So it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease. If you're not the one calling and emailing and asking the questions and pushing the deadlines and blah, 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 then you're the one who just sort of sits at the bottom of the wait list for things.
See, I hear you and I agree. And yet what I think is if I took my car to have new tires put on it, and there was a really long line and they gave me the car back without all the lug nuts on it, would I go, oh my God, they're very overworked? Like
no, but we don't pay for healthcare here, right? Like that's not coming out of my pocket.
Yeah.
Like, whereas if I go to a mechanic, I'm handing them $1,000.
Somebody's paying them though, right?
Oh yeah, I know. And our taxes are high and all of that. And we do, you try to get your voice heard through your political decisions and that kind of thing. But
yeah,
you're not signing the paycheck. I
think I'm more upset with people and their lack of desire in their chosen professions sometimes. And I don't just mean medical. Like, I don't know. I'm all over the place today, but like I'm picturing some guy tending his herd of cattle in South America with a stick. And I'm thinking like, try harder. You know what I mean? Like we've modernized everything to the point where the things we complain about are sometimes interesting. And people, I know everybody's not doing what they want, but I don't know, like I'll put it on myself for a second. I had a lot of jobs I didn't want. And I got paid crap for them. Like, honestly, like I made $4.50 an hour to work in a sheet metal shop. If anybody thinks I sprung out of my car and bounced to the door every morning for that job,
Yeah, no.
But, it wasn't a lot of fun. I wasn't compensated enough to even live barely. It was absolutely no fun. I got injured all the time, and we still went in there and worked our asses off every day. And we were understaffed and underpaid, and it was an unsafe work environment. And I never would have thought to say any of those things to anybody. I just went there and I did that job. And in my mind, I thought, I'm going to do this, but I don't want to do this forever. So I'm going to find a way to do something else.
Right.
And I don't know. No one ever gave me a job or offered me a job or helped me. I kept clawing my way up a rickety ladder. And and then I hear, like, I don't know. I have to advocate for myself.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm so pissed. I don't know why. How did you make me upset, Machine?
I'm sorry. That wasn't my intent.
All right, I'm going to let it go because it's unfair to you. But everybody work harder. There. That's it. Or just
okay, there we go.
Care a little bit once in a while. You know what I mean? Like if somebody comes in and says something to you, like, I know you're busy, but try to see them for their problem. They're there for help.
Yeah.
And you're representing yourself as someone who's going to help them. So help them. Or don't. Then quit. Leave. Like just take
I have to say, like, in their defense, everyone we've dealt with has been really nice. Like
I'm sure they were.
I haven't actually encountered anyone who's like a straight up jerk or has given me bad info necessarily or whatever. It's just the gatekeeping and the slowdowns, and that's the part that drives me nuts.
I know. You didn't say any of the things I said, by the way. I'm not putting
for
them
the
on
record.
You. Yeah, for the record, I'm not putting any of that on you. You just got me upset because I'm watching people like I don't know. I feel like at this point I'm talking to people who are representing themselves in my mother's situation, for example, as learned people. And the response you get back from them is just borderline, nah, I don't know. Like, it's seriously,
right.
It might be this. Okay, do you need me to guess if it's that? Like, why don't
Should I get on Google for you?
Yeah. Why don't you tell me what you think it might be? Well, no answer. No ideas. You want to try something?
Yeah.
Nah. Okay. All right. Well, should we just go hit her with a shovel? Like, I mean, like, what is it? Like, seriously, like, are you going to help her? Or are we all just going to make noises until you can move her on to somebody else, make her somebody else's problem? And anyway,
that's tough.
I, by the way, I generally speaking have a lot more hope for people than I sound like I do right now. But, I'm pissed. All right.
You must. I don't think you'd have this podcast if you didn't.
Yeah, but somebody's got to say it once in a while, right? Like,
there you go. Yeah.
Just do something. I don't know. All right. Let's see. I'm looking through your list, looking for something that won't make me upset. What else did you want to talk about? I'm going to ask you. I'm going to stop involving myself in it.
I think the only other thing like that I really found challenging, and that so much of the support groups and stuff, including your Facebook group, it's American, which makes sense. You guys have a lot of people, but then here in Canada, or at least in Ontario, we don't have school nurses.
Yeah.
So the whole school piece of the puzzle for young diabetics is just like, it's a totally different story. Like I see people like, I'm so mad at my nurse. She gave my son his injection 5 minutes too late and his blood sugar shot up. And I'm like, you have someone to give your kid a shot? That's amazing. Like, wish I had that. You know, he's self-injecting at school this year. At diagnosis, we were offered NPH because they don't have people to give shots at schools. So that's why all the kids here are being given the 1970s insulin, because there's no one to go give them a shot for lunch.
Yeah, I had a lot of conversations before I figured that out. Like, I kept thinking, like, why are they doing this in Canada? And then it hit me. They want them to get through the day without needing help.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I hated NPH. He was on it for a few months until I like learned and demanded something else. And he would just have to be, his blood sugar levels would have to be so high not to crash once the peak came in. Mm-hmm. Like, he'd have to be up at like, look at my chart, somewhere around like a 220 or something. Because if not, the NPH would start peaking and he'd be down at a 50 in no time flat. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, there's a lot of little kids in Ontario. I can't speak to other provinces who, I mean, maybe the NPH, everybody's different. Maybe it works better for some people, but who are just riding at these high levels all day long just so that they don't crash when the NPH hits. It really pissed me off.
I bet it would have made me upset as well. Are you using a CGM? I'm sorry, I forget.
Yeah, he's got a Dexcom.
He's got a Dexcom.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing it coming, and then how does he handle it? Does he contact you?
Well, we have sort of a set, he has a set meal times. It's kind of an annoying schedule they have in the school board here. They call it a balanced day. They don't have a lunch per se. They have 2 equal meals throughout the day. So he goes to school for 8:30 in the morning. He has gym for 40 minutes. Then he has class for a bit. Then he gets a shot at 10:15, eats at 10:30, has 25 minutes of recess after that, then more class, then a shot at 1 p.m., eats at 1:15, recess again after that, and then more class, and then he's done at 3. So it's just like physical activity and insulin and carbs all day long.
Yeah.
What I mean?
Look at how well you know his schedule. I don't miss that. I don't miss not knowing those things.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to, right?
Yeah, no, I can remember walking around being like, well, at 1:00, this is going to happen.
She's doing this. Yeah, exactly.
And I'll really have to just pay attention for the next 45 minutes because this is the end of gym class.
Exactly.
And yeah. Oh, God. Yeah, I don't miss that at all.
Yeah. No, well, that's it. The mental toll of all that. Like this, because like I said, I'm a stay-at-home parent and people are like, what do you do all day? I'm like, I'm a pancreas. That's what I do all day. Like,
I did it in person and now I know how to do it virtually. So put
exactly.
that on your resume. It's taxing for sure.
He has a phone and we text. I got that idea from you. Like, we just text all day long. If I see him going a little too low, he has a phone and a tube of glucose tabs in a belt around his waist. And, if I think he's going too low, I'll call him to have one of those. He obviously has snacks and stuff in the classroom too, but just so he has something on his person that he can just quickly take something and keep focusing on school.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, that's what worked for us. Constant's the wrong word. Like immediate access to contact is really what I mean. We weren't constantly, we were barely connected to each other throughout the day. But when you needed to be, there was no pause, and you didn't have to wait.
Exactly.
You didn't have to wait for another person, and that was always a big deal.
Yes, because last year we did it. I mean, and he was young. He was in grade 2 when he was diagnosed. Last year we did it more through the school office. I'm like, you got to call the school office every time your kid needs a Dex tab. We call them Dex tabs, dextrose tabs. That's kind of a pain for everyone involved. And so it's a lot better this year.
I'm glad that you cleared up that they're dextrose tabs, because I'd be like, are these people just putting Dex in front of everything because they love the Dexcom so much? This is our Dex dog. It's our Dex
No, exactly.
car.
Yeah. There's a brand of tablets here called Dex 4. And so that's what we use.
I see. Does he hate them, like them?
No, he loves them.
Oh.
He will ask for them sometimes. He was at soccer last night and he needed a couple. And then he's like, can I have one more? I was like, no, this is because you need it. It's not just for a treat.
Yeah, weird little kid. Stop it.
Oh, we got him hot chocolate flavored ones recently. He loves those.
Seriously?
Yeah. There's all kinds of great flavors now.
I'm going to look this up. Is that a Canadian thing or is that everywhere?
Yeah, it's called Dex 4. And it was hot chocolate flavor. It might have even been chocolate and marshmallow. I can't remember.
Chocolate marshmallow tablets.
There you go.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Somebody at this company's working hard. Right?
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah,
people are sick of the fruit punch flavor. They need something else.
They got up one day and there was like, I bet you I can make these things taste like chocolate and marshmallows. Let's try harder, boys or girls. By the way, everyone works there. But
yeah,
all right. See how much happier that made me to think that there's someone.
There you go. I'm so glad I was able to say something that made you happy.
You said that and I'm like, someone's trying. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was like earlier this close to a rabbit hole about, 100 years ago what people had to do to stay alive. And I'm like, what am I doing?
Yes.
My God. Oh my God. Okay. So first of all, I appreciate you doing this and having this conversation, talking about the things you're talking about. I do have a question going back to the celiac.
Sure.
And I felt like I got away from it too quickly. You may have heard last year someone get very upset with me when I was talking to a gentleman whose child had recently been diagnosed with celiac, already had type 1. And the father was really in the middle of a mourning for what the kid couldn't eat anymore. Okay. And he got fixated on like, what if my child goes to a birthday party and they can't have like a cupcake? And I said, it's like, is this a real problem? Like, is your kid always at birthday parties? Like, you know what I mean? Like
yes.
And
it's a few times a year.
Right. And the child, by the way, has celiac, but doesn't have any physical signs of it. And I, during this conversation, said, well, I don't know, maybe you could just let the kid have a cupcake until you figure the whole thing out. And I was approached by a couple of people who said that, celiac is can be much more serious than that. Even if you don't have physical symptoms, you could lead to other very serious problems. And I wonder how much that's in your head, that even if you're
100%.
Yeah.
All the time. Like I said, my mom's celiac too, and she has been for the last 20 years. So it's not new for me. But yeah, we're very careful about cross-contamination and stuff. He doesn't ever get a pass from celiac. I mean, the difference with David is he gets very sick if he eats it. Okay. So he doesn't want to. If he went and had a slice of regular pizza, he'd be sick all night. So
just that
doesn't appeal to him.
sick, pain, stomach, bathroom,
all of it? Pain and bowel movements. Yeah. Not nausea. I know some people get a nausea component. He hasn't gotten that. He says it feels like somebody's been punching him in the gut.
Oh. Do they
So,
do they
that's no
warn
fun.
you? Do they warn you that not adhering to the diet could lead to other issues?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's various conditions and cancers and all kinds of scary things. I actually met a woman this past summer who she was only diagnosed celiac recently. And she was probably around my age, maybe a little younger, like 37, 38. And she had struggled to conceive for years and worked with fertility doctors and all kinds of things. And then she finally had a doctor check her for celiac disease, and she was positive and switched to a gluten-free diet. And a year later, she was able to get pregnant naturally. And like, I know that's an anecdote, but
Yeah.
she firmly believed, and this doctor firmly believed that it really affected her fertility.
Yeah. Just all that inflammation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's a word that just gets thrown around all over the place, but I mean, it really does seem like it's the core of what's wrong with a lot of people that I speak to
Yes.
in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look back, all those, like, such a long time ago, like steroids were invented. And, like you get a steroid pack when you're, I don't know, you're ill, you have an illness or something like that. They were invented so long ago. I read this thing, I wish I knew where, about prednisone. But back when it was invented, they thought they had just cured everything that was wrong with people.
Wow. Yeah.
And it wasn't until obviously they found out that, taking it for extended periods of time causes different problems. But that whole idea is that back in I think in the 30s, right there. I mean, the person won a Nobel Prize for it. Oh, excuse me. Cortisone was identified in the 30s. Prednisone was developed in the 50s.
Okay.
And yeah, they talked about back then. They thought they had cured what ailed people. They were so excited about it. And it's all about inflammation. And it's just, I don't know. It sucks.
It causes everything. Yeah.
Yeah. It sucks. It made your little baby legs not work for a while, and
There we go. Exactly.
and all this other stuff. Your son's stomach to hurt if he has
if we use like a toaster like that has had wheat bread in it, and we put a piece of gluten-free bread in it, he will feel sick. He'll hurt afterwards.
That's amazing. And it's happened by mistake, so it's not
Oh yeah, it has. Like that. The hardest part of celiac is eating out or eating at other people's homes. At home, it honestly barely bothers me because I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But even if you go to a very well-meaning family member's home and they've made a gluten-free dinner for you, maybe they don't know that somebody scooped some of the butter out with a knife that had been used to spread on a piece of gluten bread.
Sure.
And they've gone and put that in the mashed potatoes now. And now you eat the mashed potatoes and you feel sick.
God, that's crazy. I mean, it's not crazy, but it is, Wow.
Yeah. So that's to me, that's the hardest part of celiac. And I see some people, especially I find people who get the celiac diagnosis after diabetes, like when they've sort of already got diabetes managed, and then they get the celiac disease diagnosis. A lot of people say if they could cure one, they'd pick celiac over diabetes.
Fascinating how often people don't pick diabetes when they have multiple issues, actually.
Yeah. I would pick diabetes in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I always say celiac's never kept me up at night.
Yeah, right. I can sleep as long as we stay gluten free. I was editing an episode I just made with someone who has MS and connective tissue disorder and all these other things. And I asked, which one? But boy, it didn't take her long. She's like, the connective tissue disorder. I'd like to get rid of that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway, it's just, I love those different perspectives, like people.
Yeah.
People who have real perspective about things, who are able to, I don't know, you even have it, like you're measured. Were you measured like this before all this started happening? Do you know what I mean by that?
Measured?
No. You're an even thinker, speaker. You haven't gotten too high or too low while we're talking. You're pacing. Yeah,
probably. That's just my nature. Yeah.
Yeah. You're paced. Like you haven't gotten excited. I just edited one the other day that, I mean, the introduction for it might be, hi, this is me and this other person. You won't hear me again till the end. And I tried a couple of times and I couldn't stop her. I really felt like I was running backwards, holding onto a bull's head. And the person was making sense and like coherent and thoughtful, but just like shot out of a cannon. And
Right.
yeah, you're just like, you're talking about upsetting things and you're at this level. I got upset and you stayed at this level. Like, it's really, I didn't know if you got brought to this.
Yeah, I guess I'm not a very emotional person. No.
Well, that's the Irish thing, right? No?
Not externally, anyway.
Am I generalizing, or is everyone in your family
No,
a
you
little?
might be right. Yeah, you might be right. Well, I don't want to put anyone on the spot. Some people are more emotional than others in my family.
I joke about my wife all the time. Like, I'm just like, I'm upset about something, and she's like, "Ugh." I was I'm like, Jesus, okay. But you said a minute ago about the hardest part about celiac. What's the hardest part about type 1?
Ooh, I mean, I hate the injections. I absolutely like a year of MDI when you're trying to have tight control. Like my poor kid, his little arms are full of bruises. I hate every time I feel a needle pierce his skin, something inside me breaks every time I feel that. Yeah, I don't know. I guess just the constant worry that like a high or low, not so much a high. I don't like highs, obviously, but if he's high for a few hours when he's away from me, we'll deal with it. But that he could just have this medical low emergency without me there to take care of it, it just breaks my heart.
Yeah, it's frightening. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, and he just has, for him, it's the activity lows. Like if we just kept him inside all day, it's not too bad. But he's really good at sports and he loves to play sports, and I love that about him. But he could be running around. I'm gonna look at my list again. He could be like at like a 54 and sprinting around the school. And I'm like, I'll call him. I'll be like, David, you need to chill. And he's like, no, I don't want to. Like, you have to right now sit down and put one of your hot chocolate Dextabs in your mouth and chill for a minute,
Yeah. I mean, anyone that hears you talk I don't know how you could not be sad. Like, basically what you said is, because of these two issues, if we just stayed in our house and didn't move around very much, everything would be fine.
Yeah. But I don't want you to think we live that way.
No,
I really don't.
I don't hear that you do. No. Not at all. But
there is a part of me that wishes I could put him in a bubble and just take care of him forever. But like, I know that's my issue, not his.
Yeah.
So I have to like put myself outside the bubble, and he does soccer, he does ice skating. We travel, we go to Florida every year. We're hopefully going to do a Europe trip this year. We paddleboard all summer long. Like we don't keep him in a bubble, even though probably if I really, it would make my life easier if I could.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you. Obviously, you're not going to live that way.
Yeah.
But somebody ends up doing it,
Yeah, that's sad.
Someone ends up getting overwhelmed and thinking, if I just limit all of these exterior issues, I'll be okay. And then they end up doing that. So
yeah, you can sort of see how like someone with bad anxiety or whatever would go down that path, and it could be really dark.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, all I'm left is to ask you if you can access your old way of speaking, and like,
oh gosh, no.
you can't though, right? You sound so like your accent is so vanilla. Like, I don't even know how to like put it somewhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that you're Canadian.
Well, that's what I think Canadians sound like. At least Ontarians. I guess I should say urban Ontarians. I think the rural ones can have a bit of a twang or something. But I find the Ontario accent really pretty flat.
Yeah, it's great. Listen, I liked it. I'm just saying that I missed the things that usually happen when I talk to people from Canada.
Maybe it's because my parents are Irish. I don't know. Maybe like I haven't quite as like absorbed as much of the Canadianisms. I don't know.
You didn't draw out an A or anything. It was,
No.
You didn't say "yeah" at the end of one sentence. Not of one sentence. It was a bit of a letdown, Rasheen. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Is that a thing we do? A "yeah"?
It's the like oh or "yeah," like after it's like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Canada, like that "eh" at the end of like.
Oh, okay.
You don't hear it? Look at you, Ontario. So special.
All right. Yep, that's me.
Oh my gosh. All right. Is there anything we didn't talk about we should have?
No, I think it's good.
Did I let you down by losing my mind in the middle, or were you okay?
No, it's okay. I fully expected a Scott rant at some point.
Appreciate it. I really do appreciate that. Thank you. I feel very seen by that comment from you.
There you go.
Appreciate it so much. All right. Well, thank you so much. Hold on one second for me, okay?
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Huge thanks to Roisin for coming on the store. What is that? Show? Podcast? What was I going to say? Huge thanks to Roisin for coming on the podcast and sharing her story. Maybe I was saying share before. Who knows? I also want to thank Omnipod, the makers of the Omnipod DASH and Omnipod 5, and remind you that at my link, omnipod.com/juicebox, all can be completed. We're also going to thank the Contour Next Gen Blood Glucose Meter. Arden's been using a Contour meter forever and ever. I actually just changed a battery on hers the other day so that she could go off to college with a brand new battery in her Contour meter. Contournext.com/juicebox. Don't forget to check out the private Facebook group, Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes. A diabetes diagnosis comes with a lot of new terminology, and that's why I've created the Defining Diabetes series. These are short episodes where Jenny Smith and I go over all of the terms that you're going to hear living with diabetes, and some of them that you might not hear every day. From the very simple bolus up to feet on the floor. Don't know the difference between hypo and hyper? We'll explain it to you. These are short episodes. They are not boring. They're fun. And they're informative. It's not just us reading to you out of the dictionary. We take the time to chat about all of these different words. Maybe you don't know what a Kussmaul respiration is. You will when you're done. Ever heard of glycemic index and load? Haven't? Doesn't matter. You'll know after you listen to the Defining Diabetes series. Now, how do you find it? You go to juiceboxpodcast.com, up top to the menu, and click on Defining Diabetes. You'll be able to listen right there in your browser, or you'll see the full list of the episodes and be able to go into an audio app like Apple Podcasts or Spotify and listen to them at your pace. Download them into your phone and listen when you can. The Defining Diabetes series is made up of 51 short episodes that will fast forward your knowledge of diabetes terminology.